Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. We have gotten a whole bunch of requests for us to do some bismuth in 20 gauge. So that's what I'm doing today. This is going to be a 1 1/8 ounce load at about 1350 FPS. So nice solid load. We are using number 4 bismuth from Roto Metals. It is alloyed with 6% tin. Now the data that I'm using calls for a CSD 20, it's the CSD 20 gauge 3-inch wad, which is not available. Also, I don't have any Shadite hulls on hand. I have Fiocchi hulls, so I am using what is available to me right now. Again, the CSD 20 gauge wad is not available. I am using the Ballistic Products BP 2092 wad, which is you can use it in 3-inch. It also works in some 2 3/4 inch loads, but for this load I'm doing right here, it's going to work perfect. This load is fairly straightforward. It's just hull. I'm using a brand new Fiocchi once again. This BP 2092 wad, we're using little gunpowder and some fiber cushion wad and buffer if you want it. Of course, the bismuth shot too. And for an overshot card, I'm using 1 slice of a 24 gauge nitro card. This was the 1/8 inch 24 gauge nitro card, and I just took 1 slice off of it. They come in slices of 3. Why am I using a 24 gauge nitro card? Well, I don't have any 20 gauge nitro cards. That's about it. We are going to pattern this load. You'll see it the same day I post this video. We'll probably end up using Josh's Noble for this, or we would use my single shot 20. Although we'll probably go with Josh's Noble. I think it has a little bit tighter choke than the regular full that's in my CBC. I gotta tell you guys, little gunpowder in 20 gauge is absolutely incredible. You can load up to 1 5/8 ounces of lead or TSS with it. You can do 1 1/4 with bismuth. You can do 1 3/8 ounce loads with lead in a 2 3/4 inch shell. It's just a great powder for 20 gauge. You can also send a 1 ounce steel load at least 1350 FPS using little gunpowder. So all around, little gun is just awesome. It's good in every single gauge, although stepping up past 28 gauge, you're looking at some really heavy loads for lead, obviously. In 20 gauge, you can, again, do 1 5/8 ounce. In 16 gauge, you can push it up to 1 7/8 ounce if you want to, but that's loaded completely conventional. Not a really good load there, but 1 1/2 ounces is totally doable in 2 3/4 inch 16 gauge. You can do in 12 gauge up to 2 3/4 ounces and 3 ounces in 10 gauge. So the load I'm going with calls for 33.1 grains of Hodgdon little gun. Nope, it calls for 33 grains even, but it's still a pretty low pressure load. I'm using 34. I'm using straight even 34 grains here because this is a pretty low pressure load, and I'm just going to use 34 grains to get me to that 1350 FPS mark. The data lists this load at 1315, so I like a little bit higher velocity than that with bismuth. Again, that's 34 grains, which is 1 scoop of the Lee 2.2 cc dipper. It says 34. We are at 34. Again, I'm using the Ballistic Products. Sir, my laundry's done. Anyway, Ballistic Products BP 2092 wad, and all I've done to it is unstitch the first 2 layers of stitching. It is now a 4-petal and has a half cut on that wad. So this should pattern really well. Let's get that seated in there. Now we need about 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch of fiber cushion wad, and I've got that right here. It looks like this is about a 1/16 of an inch of a 20 gauge fiber cushion wad. I'm going to fold that up and drop it down in my hull. Grab a wad tamper, if I could find it, it's right here, from Gary Caskey, and get that flat in the bottom of that wad. If you guys want one of these or any other tool Gary makes, facebook.com/gary.d.caskey, C-A-S-K-E-Y. He makes wad tampers. He calls them slug nudgers or wad nudgers. Now, he also makes wad trimmers, hull trimmers, and wad slitters. Gary makes all kinds of really cool stuff. The load data actually calls for a 20 gauge nitro card underneath the CSD 20 gauge wad, but again, I don't have the CSD 20 gauge, so I'm just building up stack height using the fiber cushion wad inside of the BP 2092, and that works. So I have here 1.110 ounces of number 4 bismuth from Roto Metals, which is again alloyed with 6% tin. Now I'm not using the full 1 1/8 ounce payload here, which is 1.12 on the scale, because I am using buffer and I don't want to make this load overweight for the powder charge. But if you guys don't want to use buffer, then just load the straight 1 1/8 ounces. I'm buffering this up to 1 1/8 ounces. Every single pellet is inside the wad. We are ready for buffer. So we're going to add 1 scoop of the Lee 2.2 cc dipper worth of mix number 47 buffer. You always got to spill some. Got to sacrifice a little, as Josh puts it. Looking inside this, all the pellets are covered in buffer. Looks nice and even. And we have the top row flush with the buffer. Top row pellets flush with the buffer. Now we need 1 slice of a 24 gauge or 20 gauge nitro card right on top. We are ready to crimp this. I have this Lee load all set up in 20 gauge. Front station is the 6-point crimp. I've said this 1,000 times, but setting out the press kind of sideways, which makes it hard to see what I'm doing. That is not the right way. There we go. There we go. Crimp's gonna look great, guys. And we have a really nice looking shell right here. Excellent. 20 gauge, 3-inch, 1 1/8 ounce bismuth at 1350 FPS. We will run this over a chrono and figure out what it's running, but I'm hoping for 1350. And for this load right here, we'll pattern it at our usual 30 yards for bismuth. We normally shoot at 42 with lead, but this is bismuth. We want to keep it to 30. And if it looks good at 30, then by all means, try it at 40. We've done 2 16 gauge loads so far at 30 yards, and both of them were very well patterning, waterfowl loads. I'm hoping this one does just as good. And if you missed it, those 16 gauge loads were both about 1350 to 1400 FPS. That's the territory I like with bismuth. Now, one was a 1 ounce load, and the other one was an 1 1/4 load. This is right in between at 1 1/8. So just stay tuned for that one, and fingers crossed it patterns really well. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month. You guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as our Instagram and Rumble, will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.